Milan stared out of the small window of the space outpost, watching the stars stretch endlessly before him. From this edge of the galaxy, everything looked quiet and still, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. The outpost floated silently, small and lonely among a sea of black. Every day felt the same: scans, reports, and endless nights filled with cold, empty space. He rubbed his tired eyes and let out a sigh. Being alone was harder than he had expected. On Earth, people always surrounded him. There were voices, laughter, and the noise of life. But here, only the hum of the outpost's systems and the faint beep of the instruments kept him company. Even the robots felt distant, moving with efficiency but without warmth. Milan returned to his console and began reviewing the latest scans. Most signals were empty or boring. Echoes of distant stars, faint bursts of radiation, the usual background noise. His hand hovered over the controls, almost bored enough to shut everything down. Then suddenly something strange appeared. It was a pulse of energy unlike anything he had seen before. The pattern was unusual, complex, almost like it had a rhythm. His heart skipped a beat. Milan leaned closer, adjusting the scanners. "Impossible," he muttered. The signal pulsed again, and this time it almost seemed alive. Not in a physical way, but like it had intelligence behind it. His pulse quickened. He ran several analyses, comparing the signal to known sources, but nothing matched. It was not a star, not a satellite, not even a known cosmic phenomenon. Milan sat back in his chair, feeling a mix of fear and excitement. "What are you?" he whispered into the empty room. The signal repeated, pulsing in the same strange rhythm. Milan's mind raced. Could it be a message? Could someone or something be trying to reach him? His hands shook slightly as he tapped the console. If it was intelligent, he needed to respond carefully. He activated the communication array, sending a simple, neutral signal back. A greeting. Nothing fancy. Just a series of tones designed to see if there was a response. Minutes passed. Milan stared at the screen, wondering if he had imagined it. Then faintly a soft sound filled the room. It was quiet, almost musical, like wind flowing through crystal. He froze, a voice. Not in his language, but somehow he understood it. The tones carried meaning, a pattern he could feel. He adjusted the translator, hoping it would make sense. "Hello?" The system interpreted the sound. Milan's eyes widened. He had not expected this. His voice trembled slightly as he whispered, "Hello, can you speak with me?" The reply came almost immediately, soft and flowing, "Yes." "I am Arya." Milan's heart leaped. He had heard of alien life, but never like this. Not intelligent, not gentle, not someone who could communicate. His mind spun with questions, but one feeling rose above all: curiosity. "Where are you?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Far." In the currents between stars came the reply, "You are alone?" Milan smiled faintly, though a twinge of sadness hit him. "Yes, alone. Lonely," Arya said softly, almost like a sigh carried through the void. The word struck him. No one had ever understood him like this before. Not completely. Even at home, people moved on, busy with their lives. But this being speaking across the emptiness of space understood loneliness. "Do you come from a planet?" he asked, his curiosity growing. "No, we flow with the void. We see all that moves between stars." Milan's eyes widened. The thought was amazing. A species that lived in the space between worlds, seeing things he could only imagine. He leaned back, letting the reality sink in. He was speaking to something utterly unlike him. Yet here they were, connecting across unimaginable distances. Hours passed, like minutes. Milan forgot to eat, to drink, to even check the outpost systems. He and Arya exchanged small stories. The color of light in her home currents, the feeling of drifting without gravity, the way humans tried to survive on planets. And Milan shared his life. His home, his dreams, and the endless quiet of his lonely station. By the time the outpost's night cycle dimmed the lights, Milan realized he had not felt this alive in years. He looked at the stars again, feeling them differently now. Not empty, not silent, but full of potential. "Will we talk again?" he asked softly. "Yes." Arya's voice came warm and musical. "I will wait for your voice." Milan smiled, a strange warmth filling his chest. For the first time, being alone in the void did not feel so lonely. Somewhere out there, a new friend, or maybe something more, was waiting. and the universe with all its endless darkness suddenly felt alive. Night had fallen over the outpost again, but Milan did not feel alone this time. The stars which once seemed distant and cold now felt alive. Somewhere out there beyond the reach of any human ship, Arya waited. He could almost imagine her form, glowing softly in the void, shifting and flowing like light in a river. He sat at the console, adjusting the sensors, making sure the signal was clear. The faint pulses returned immediately, rhythmic and soft. "Hello, Arya," he said, his voice calm but full of excitement. "Hello, Milan," came the response, musical and gentle. "You returned." "Yes," Milan said, smiling. "I wanted to see if you were still there, always. I am here when you listen." Milan felt a warmth spread through him. He realized he had been waiting for this. Not for news, not for orders from his commander, but for a voice from across the void that understood him. "Tell me more about your world," Milan asked, leaning closer to the console. "What is it like? In the currents?" "The currents are everywhere between stars. We flow with light and energy. We see planets, comets, and travelers, but we do not touch them. We watch, we learn, we move." Milan nodded slowly. "So it is like being free but always alone?" "Alone, yes. But we are not lonely. We have each other, and the currents speak to us. But humans are different. You need voices, faces, connection." He smiled softly. "I guess that makes me more human than you are, perhaps." Arya's voice carried a hint of amusement. "But you are brave. You stand on a solid planet, live under a sun, and still reach for the stars. That is remarkable." Milan felt his chest tighten. He had always thought of humans as fragile, tied to their worlds. But hearing Arya's words made him proud. Humans could explore, survive, and even reach beyond themselves. And now, through this voice in the dark, he felt that courage reflected back at him. "I want to understand," he said quietly. "I want to know your currents, everything you see out there." "I will show you in time," Arya replied. "But first, you must listen. The void is quiet, patient, and deep. It holds many secrets." Milan leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes. He imagined the currents flowing around him, light swirling like water, and Arya moving within it, graceful and infinite. He felt the emptiness of the outpost fade, replaced by something vast and alive. "Do you ever feel lonely?" he asked, almost shyly. "Sometimes," she admitted. "But the currents speak to me. And now I hear you. That makes it different. Less empty." Milan's fingers hovered over the console. He had never thought of loneliness as something that could be shared. And yet here it was, across millions of miles of space, a connection forming with someone entirely different yet somehow close. "Can you see me?" he asked cautiously. "Not as you see each other," Arya said. "We do not have eyes like yours, but we sense light, shapes, energy. I feel your presence. I feel your hope. Your curiosity." Milan laughed softly. "Curiosity? Yes. That's all I have sometimes, and hope. I hope someone out there understands me." "Then you are lucky," Arya said softly. "For I do." The words made his heart beat faster. He had never felt this understood before. He leaned closer to the screen, wishing somehow that distance did not matter. "Will we keep talking?" "Yes, as long as you wish. I will wait. For your voice." Hours passed, but Milan did not notice. He shared stories of Earth, of the forests and oceans, of sunrises and people bustling in streets. Arya told him about the currents, how they glowed with colors humans could not name, how they twisted and flowed like living ribbons. Every new story made Milan feel smaller in the vastness of space, yet larger in ways he could not explain. He realized that being human did not mean being limited. Being human meant reaching out, even into the void, and discovering wonders beyond imagination. Suddenly, the sensors detected a faint anomaly. Milan frowned. It was a small fluctuation in the energy around the outpost. Nothing dangerous, but unusual. "Do not worry," Arya said, sensing his concern. "It is only the currents, shifting. They notice you now. They feel your courage." Milan exhaled, smiling. "So even the void notices me?" "Yes," Arya replied softly, "and it likes what it sees." He leaned back, feeling a calm he had not known before. Alone in the outpost, surrounded by millions of stars, he no longer felt isolated. Somewhere beyond the reach of human eyes, a being of light had reached out to him, and he had answered. For the first time, the void did not feel empty. It felt full, with life, with stories, and with a connection that could stretch across the galaxy. Milan closed his eyes and whispered, "Good night, Arya." "Good night, Milan." And for the first time, he fell asleep not feeling alone, but part of something far greater than himself, ready for the adventures that the void would bring. Days passed at the outpost, but Milan no longer counted time in the same way. Each day was measured by the pulses of a distant voice, the quiet, flowing language of Arya. Their conversations had become the most important part of his life. Milan often found himself staring at the stars for hours, wondering about the currents where Arya lived. He imagined the ribbons of energy swirling gracefully, shifting like waves in an endless sea. He imagined Arya moving through them, her voice carrying warmth and curiosity. The thought made the loneliness of the outpost fade, replaced with excitement and anticipation. "Good morning, Arya," he said one morning, even though the stars outside had no sun. "Good morning." Milan came her soft reply, carrying the same melodic tone he had grown to love. "You look thoughtful today." "I'm thinking about your world," he said. "The currents, the light. How do you live there? Do you ever feel afraid?" "Afraid?" "Sometimes," Arya admitted. "The void is vast. It holds wonders and dangers. But we flow with it. We trust it as it trusts us, and now, I feel safer knowing you listen." Milan smiled. He had never imagined that words spoken across millions of miles could make him feel so close to someone. "I feel the same," he said quietly. "Even though I cannot see you, I feel like I know you." "You do," she replied. "I sense your courage, your curiosity, and your heart." The words made Milan's chest tighten. There was something magical in the way she spoke. Not just a connection between species, but a connection between beings who understood each other beyond form or distance. They shared stories constantly now. Milan spoke of Earth, the forests that smelled of rain, the mountains that reached into clouds, the oceans that stretched farther than eyes could see. He described the way humans laughed, worked, and celebrated, trying to make Arya understand the small joys of life on a solid planet. "Your world is beautiful," Arya said. "I wish I could see it, feel it, touch it." Milan felt a pang of sadness. He wanted to let her see, to take her hand and show her everything he loved. But he knew she could not leave the currents. Her world was not solid, not the same as his. Still, he tried to paint images with words. "Close your eyes," he said softly. "Imagine the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the scent of flowers, the sound of rivers flowing." "I will try," she replied. "I see colors I do not know names for. I feel joy, warmth, strange, wonderful things." And in turn, Arya told him of the currents. She described light that danced in colors humans could not imagine, flowing paths that twisted like rivers in endless patterns, and energy that carried knowledge and memory of everything it touched. Milan listened in awe, realizing the universe was far more alive than he had ever imagined. One night, as Milan adjusted the sensors, he felt a strange tug at the edge of his perception. "Something is different tonight," he whispered. "Yes." Arya's voice came immediately, gentle but serious. "The currents shift. They notice your life, your presence. You are unusual, Milan. Humans rarely reach out across the void. They fear it." Milan felt a surge of pride. "Then maybe I am meant to do this. To reach out, to connect. You are," she said softly. "And I'm glad you did, for you bring friendship. You bring light where there was only silence." Milan leaned back in his chair, feeling the emptiness of space transform. Once he had felt small, insignificant, alone. But now, even in this remote outpost, he felt larger than he had ever been. He was part of something greater, a connection that spanned light years, yet felt as close as a heartbeat. They laughed together at small things, mistakes in translations, the quirks of human life, the impossibility of describing energy as taste or smell. They shared hopes, Milan's dream of exploring farther into space, Arya's wish to understand humans fully, to see the beauty of life on solid worlds. As the days passed, a deeper bond grew between them. Not only curiosity and friendship, but trust. They relied on each other's presence, their voices becoming an anchor in the vastness of space. Milan realized that the loneliness he had carried for so long was fading. For the first time, he did not fear the silence. He welcomed it, knowing Arya's voice would always find him. Finally, as the outpost's night cycle dimmed the lights, Milan whispered softly into the console, "Thank you, Arya. For everything. For being there." "I thank you too, Milan," she replied, her voice gentle, flowing like the currents themselves. "Without you, the void would be silent, lonely, but now, it sings." Milan closed his eyes, letting the warmth of her words fill him. He was still at the edge of the galaxy, still alone in form, but no longer alone in heart. Somewhere beyond the reach of human eyes, a new friendship, perhaps something more, was growing. And the universe suddenly felt alive with possibility. Milan had grown used to the rhythm of his life with Arya. Every day brought new stories, laughter, and shared wonder. The outpost no longer felt empty, but not everyone welcomed his discoveries. One morning, the alert lights on the console blinked urgently. Milan frowned. He had not changed any settings, yet the system reported unusual energy readings near the edge of the outpost. He tapped the controls, scanning quickly. It was not dangerous, but it was unusual. Someone on the base would notice. He felt a pang of worry. What would his commander think if he mentioned the signal? Later that day, Commander Rahl walked into the observation room, eyes sharp. "Milan, the energy readings near the outpost are strange." "Explain yourself." Milan hesitated. He wanted to tell the truth, to explain the pulses, the voice, but the words stuck in his throat. How could he explain Arya without sounding crazy? It's probably just natural interference," Milan said carefully, hoping to deflect suspicion. Rahl's brow furrowed. "Natural interference doesn't respond." "It doesn't speak, Milan. You need to be honest with me." Milan swallowed hard. He wanted to. He wanted to tell his commander about the intelligent voice, about Arya, about everything. But something held him back. Fear of judgment, fear of disbelief. He nodded instead. "Understood, Commander." Later, in the quiet of the night, Milan reached out to Arya. "They suspect something unusual," he said quietly. "I do not know if I can tell them about you yet." "I understand," Arya replied, her voice soft but steady. "Humans fear what they do not understand. Some of my people do too. They distrust those who walk between currents and solid worlds." Milan frowned. "Your people distrust humans? Some do. They think humans are reckless, tied to the ground, unable to see the currents as we do. They may warn me, or forbid me from speaking to you." Milan felt a chill. Even as he felt the warmth of their connection, the universe was reminding him that not everyone would approve. "What should we do?" he asked. "We wait and listen. Trust is stronger than fear," Arya said. The following days were tense. The commander increased scans and a small team visited the edge of the outpost. Milan tried to keep normal routines, but every beep of the console made him anxious. At the same time, Arya sent comforting pulses, reminders of their bond, quiet encouragement that gave him courage. One evening, Milan tried to speak about the signal again with his commander. "Sir, it's unlike anything we've ever seen. The readings, they seem intelligent." Rahl's eyes narrowed. "Intelligent? You mean a life form?" Milan nodded. "Yes, sir, I think it wants to communicate. I've been speaking to it." The commander's face hardened. "Milan, this is serious. We cannot take risks with unknown entities. They could be dangerous. You must report every interaction. If this being is hostile, even accidentally, the consequences could be catastrophic." Milan felt the weight of responsibility pressing on him. Arya was not dangerous, he knew that, but his commander did not. And if the authorities found out, Arya could be lost forever. He waited until nightfall, then whispered into the console, "Arya, they are suspicious. They might not understand us, I know," she replied softly. "Trust is fragile, Milan, but our bond, it is stronger. We must be careful, but we must continue." Milan nodded, even though she could not see him. He realized that connecting across the void required courage, not just to explore space, but to protect what mattered most. In the quiet hours, they shared small comforts. Arya described hidden streams of light weaving through the void, currents that glowed like flowing lanterns. Milan shared the view from the outpost, how the stars shimmered differently each night, how the cold silence could feel almost peaceful when one listened carefully. But even in these quiet moments, Milan could feel the shadow of distrust hovering. Humans feared the unknown. Arya's people could feel the same fear, even from across millions of miles. The universe, so vast and beautiful, held challenges not just of distance or danger, but of understanding. Milan realized that their bond was fragile. It depended on trust, courage, and careful words. One wrong move, one disclosure could end it all. Yet even with the pressure, he felt a spark of determination. He would not let fear destroy the connection he had found. He would protect it, nurture it, even in the face of doubt. "We will find a way," Arya said, sensing his thoughts. "Even if others do not understand, even if they fear. We will not let it end." Milan smiled faintly. "Yes," he whispered. "We will find a way." The stars outside seemed to shine brighter that night. The void, full of mysteries and challenges, was no longer just a place of silence. It was a place where courage, trust, and a strange, growing friendship could survive, even thrive, if one dared to reach across the darkness. Milan leaned back in his chair, listening to the faint pulses of Arya's voice. "For E." Milan sat in the observation room, staring at the stars. Every night he tried to imagine the currents where Arya lived, the flowing ribbons of energy that stretched between galaxies. He had grown used to their conversations, but now he felt something more. A desire to see her, to witness the currents firsthand, even if only in a small way. "Arya," he whispered into the console, "I want to see you. I want to meet you if it is possible." There was a pause. Milan felt his pulse quicken. This was risky. Very few humans had ever left solid ground to meet beings of the void. Yet the thought of finally being closer to her filled him with courage. "I do not know if it is safe," Arya replied softly. "Many of my people would warn me. They do not trust humans up close, but I feel your heart, Milan. I wish to meet you too." Milan smiled faintly. "Then we will be careful. We will meet at the currents where no others will interfere." "Yes, I will guide you," she said. The plan was simple but daring. Milan would take a small shuttle to the edge of the outpost, to a location Arya described as a calm convergence of currents. It was a place where the light flowed gently and energy formed shapes that almost looked like water. Milan prepared for the journey, checking the systems, ensuring life support was perfect. He felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. When the shuttle launched, the outpost faded behind him. Stars stretched out like a river of light, and the blackness of space felt deeper than ever. Milan felt his heart race thinking of Arya, imagining her shifting form in the currents waiting for him. "You are close," Arya said, her voice flowing through the communicator. "Do not be afraid, Milan." "I am not afraid," he said, though a small tremor in his chest betrayed him. "I am curious. Curiosity is human. It is good." As the shuttle approached the meeting point, Milan saw the currents. They were more beautiful than he had imagined. Light twisted and flowed like liquid gold and silver, creating patterns that moved like living rivers. The sensation of energy surrounding him made the shuttle feel weightless, almost like floating in a dream. Then he saw her. Arya's form appeared, luminous and shifting, glowing softly in the streams of energy. She moved gracefully, shaping herself to be gentle and approachable so Milan would not feel fear. Even though she did not have a human body, he recognized something familiar in her presence, a warmth, a curiosity, a bond that had grown through countless conversations. "Milan," Arya said softly, her light pulsing like a heartbeat. "You came, I promised," he said. "I wanted to see you, to know this place with you." They floated there for a moment, silent, simply observing each other. The currents twisted around them, a living, flowing world of light. Milan felt a strange calm, a feeling he had never known in the emptiness of the void. Here, at the edge of everything, he was not alone. "You see the currents as I do," Arya said. "Do you feel them?" "I do," Milan replied. "They feel alive, like they are watching, listening, welcoming us." "They welcome you," Arya said softly. "And I welcome you too." Milan's chest tightened. He had imagined this moment countless times, and now it was real. Across the vastness of space, he and Arya stood together, different yet connected. Words felt small here. The current spoke in silence, in movement, in light, and in that silence he felt her presence more clearly than ever before. "Can we stay like this?" Milan asked quietly. "Just for a little while?" "Yes," Arya said, her glow intensifying. "We can share this moment as long as you wish." For hours they drifted, Milan in his shuttle, Arya in her flowing form. They shared small observations, how the currents changed color, how the energy flowed differently when they moved closer together, how even silence could feel comforting when shared. Milan realized that he had never felt this connected to anyone before. Not on Earth, not in his training, Not even among the crew members he had known. Here, in the heart of the void, he had found someone who understood him completely. "Soon we must return," Arya said gently, "but I will be here waiting. For your voice, for your presence." "I will return," Milan said firmly. "And I will come back. I promise." As the shuttle began its slow journey back to the outpost, Milan looked out at the glowing currents, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the ship's systems. He had crossed the void to meet her, and now he understood what courage truly meant. It was not just facing danger, it was reaching across the unknown, trusting in connection, and daring to form a bond that others might not understand. The stars stretched endlessly, but Milan no longer felt small or lonely. He had seen the currents. He had met Arya, and somewhere between the galaxies, a friendship, perhaps even something deeper, had begun to shine brighter than any star. Milan returned to the outpost, his heart still glowing from the meeting with Arya. He could not stop thinking about her flowing form, the way the currents danced around her, the calm yet vibrant presence she carried. For a brief moment, the loneliness of space had disappeared, but that feeling of peace did not last long. The next morning, the alert lights blinked urgently across the control room. Milan frowned and rushed to the console. Multiple ships from the human fleet had been detected near the edge of the outpost. They were scanning the region where he had met Arya. Commander Rahl must have found out, Milan thought, anxiety tightening his chest. A voice came through the intercom, calm but firm. "Milan, we have detected unknown energy readings near your position. Report immediately." Milan hesitated. Could he tell them the truth? That the readings were not dangerous? That they belonged to Arya? He knew the fleet would see her as a threat. But he also knew he could not lie forever. He pressed a button and spoke cautiously. "Sir, the readings. They are not hostile. I believe it is intelligent life. I have encountered it." Silence followed, then the voice of Commander Rahl. "Encountered it? Explain yourself, Milan. Now." Before he could answer, a new signal appeared, Arya's voice, soft but urgent. "Milan, they are coming. You must be careful." "I understand," he whispered, even as his fingers trembled on the controls. Within moments, more ships appeared, this time not only human, but also faint glows of other energy patterns, Arya's people. It seemed they had noticed the same meeting. Some of her kind were suspicious, believing that humans could not be trusted. Milan's heart sank. The very connection he had nurtured was now at risk. Both sides, the humans and Arya's people, were preparing to confront each other, each believing the other could be dangerous. He took a deep breath and activated the communication system. "Everyone, please," he said, his voice calm but firm. "This is not a threat. We mean no harm. I have met this being personally. She is intelligent, peaceful, and only wishes to communicate." There was silence on both ends. Then a human officer spoke. "Milan, we cannot ignore protocol. You could be wrong. These readings, they could be dangerous." "Do not fear," Arya said, her voice flowing gently through the communicator. "I am here. I will show them I mean no harm." Milan felt a sense of relief, though tension still filled the void. Slowly, Arya shifted her form, letting the currents swirl around her to create shapes and patterns that were calm and inviting. She glowed softly, pulses of light that spoke of trust and peace. "See me," she said. "I am no enemy." The humans watched cautiously, and even some of her people paused, sensing her sincerity. Milan stepped forward, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "We can understand each other," he said. "I have learned her language. I know she is not hostile. She wants only friendship." For a tense moment, nothing moved. Then one of the alien patterns, hesitant, replied, "How can we trust humans?" Milan answered gently, "Because I am human, and I choose to trust you. That is how we start. Trust begins with courage." Arya's light pulsed warmly, and slowly the currents around her began to glow in patterns of welcome. The human ships held their position, scanning carefully, but no weapons fired. Both sides were beginning to see the possibility of understanding rather than conflict. "You see," Arya said softly, "we can coexist. We can learn from each other." Milan smiled faintly. "We already are. Look at the currents, the ships, the signals. This is the start." Hours passed as both sides observed each other, testing boundaries without hostility. Milan and Arya remained at the center, their presence a bridge across the fear and misunderstanding. Slowly, tension began to dissolve. Humans and currents alike realized that aggression was unnecessary, that communication and patience could prevent disaster. By the time the stars outside seemed to settle into quiet patterns, Milan felt a warmth he had not felt since meeting Arya. The void, once silent and full of suspicion, now held a fragile harmony. "We have survived the first clash," Arya said softly. "And it proves connection is stronger than fear." Milan nodded, even though she could not see him. "Yes," he whispered. "We will continue. Together." And somewhere in the currents, across millions of miles, light flowed like a river of hope. The clash had passed, but the bond remained. Stronger now, it promised not just friendship, but the possibility of understanding, trust, and perhaps even love, shining brightly in the endless darkness of the void. The clash of the void had left both sides cautious, but Milan and Arya knew this was only the beginning. Their connection had survived the first test. But now came the real challenge, convincing others that trust and understanding were possible. Milan worked tirelessly at the outpost, speaking to his fellow humans with patience and care. He explained what he had learned from Arya, the currents, her people, and the intelligence and kindness she carried. Many were skeptical. Humans had always feared the unknown, and some feared that his words were too idealistic. "I understand your concern," Milan said during a council meeting, "but I have met her personally. She is not hostile. She wants to communicate. We can learn from her, and she can learn from us. We do not need to fight to understand each other." The officers murmured among themselves, uncertain. Trust was not built in minutes. It took proof, patience, and courage. Milan knew that. Yet he remained calm, hoping his sincerity would shine through. Meanwhile, Arya worked on her side of the void. Some of her people were still suspicious of humans, seeing them as bound to fragile planets and unable to navigate the currents safely. She spoke gently to them, shaping her light in calm, welcoming patterns. "They are not like us," she said softly, "but they are capable of courage, of understanding. We must give them a chance." Her words spread among the currents, calming doubts and easing fears. Slowly, her people began to sense Milan's sincerity. They realized he was not there to exploit or harm, only to connect and learn. The first step was small but meaningful. Milan organized a controlled meeting between a human envoy and Arya's people, using the currents as a neutral space. The humans watched carefully as Arya guided them through the energy flows, showing how her people communicated and how the currents responded. Milan stood beside her, explaining in simple terms. "This is Arya's world," he said. "The currents are not dangerous. They are alive, but they do not attack unless threatened. We can observe, learn, and respect them." The humans listened, some with skepticism, others with wonder. Slowly, the tension began to fade. They saw the beauty, the intelligence, and the peacefulness that Milan had described, you see? Arya's voice flowed gently through the currents. "We can coexist. We can understand each other." After hours of careful demonstration, the humans nodded. They realized that this bond was not only possible but valuable. Humans and currents could learn from each other, and trust could grow where fear had once dominated. Milan felt a surge of relief. It had worked. The first real step toward unity had been taken. He looked at Arya's glowing form, feeling a deep warmth in his chest. She had helped him bridge two worlds, and together they had created understanding. "Thank you," he whispered softly. "No," she replied, her light pulsing gently. "We did this together. You guided your people, I guided mine. That is how trust grows, step by step." As days passed, communication between humans and Arya's people became more regular. Exchanges were cautious but full of curiosity and wonder. Humans shared knowledge of planets, science, and exploration, while Arya's people shared the flow of energy, the history of the currents, and insights into life beyond solid worlds. Milan and Arya spent countless hours together, drifting in the currents, learning, laughing, and growing closer. The bond between them deepened, not only as friends but as partners in discovery. Each shared glance, each pulse of light felt like a quiet promise. One evening, as Milan floated near the edge of the currents, he whispered softly, "We've done it, Arya. We've built something new. Something stronger than fear." "Yes," she replied, her glow brighter than usual. "And it shows." Love is not only for humans. Connection is universal. It can span distance, form, even worlds. Milan's heart warmed. He realized that their bond was not just about understanding. It was about hope, courage, and the ability to reach beyond fear. In the vast void, where isolation could swallow even the bravest heart, they had found a bridge, not only between species, but between souls. The currents flowed gently around them, reflecting the growing harmony. Humans and currents alike observed in awe, realizing that unity was possible when patience, trust, and courage guided their steps. And in that quiet moment, Milan and Arya simply existed together, their hearts and minds aligned across the vast expanse. The void no longer felt empty or threatening. It was alive with promise, with light, and with the quiet joy of trust realized. For Milan, the outpost was no longer a lonely station at the edge of the galaxy. It was a place where connection, courage, and love had found a home. And as he floated beside Arya, he understood something simple and profound. Even in the darkest corners of the universe, trust and love could shine brighter than any star. The void was calm that night, filled with the gentle glow of distant stars and the soft pulses of the currents. Milan floated near the edge of the convergence, his eyes scanning the flowing ribbons of energy. But tonight he did not feel the usual loneliness. He felt a sense of completion, of peace because Arya was there beside him. "It is beautiful tonight," Milan said softly. "Yes," Arya replied, her voice flowing like the currents themselves. "The currents mirror what you feel." "Calm, strong, and full of light," Milan smiled, remembering their journey, from the first signal, to cautious conversations, to the daring meeting, and finally to bridging the gap between humans and her people. Each step had been uncertain, filled with fear, but now it all felt right. "I never imagined I could feel this close to someone even across the void," he admitted. "Not just friendship, something more." Arya's glow brightened, pulsing gently. "I feel it too, Milan. Connection is not limited by distance, form, or worlds. It grows with trust and courage. You showed me that, and I am grateful." Milan's heart thumped. Grateful was too small a word for what he felt. He had found not only a friend, but a partner. Someone who understood him more than anyone ever had. Someone who saw his heart even across light years of space. "Arya," he whispered, reaching out, though she had no hand to hold. "I want to always be with you. Even if it is impossible to touch, to share a world. I want our hearts to be together." "They are," she replied softly, "already. Your courage, your curiosity, your trust. It flows with me as I flow with you. That is our bond." For a moment, the currents swirled gently around them, wrapping them in soft light. Milan felt warmth even though he knew her form was not physical like his. There was comfort in the presence of someone who accepted him completely, who valued his heart above fear or doubt. "Do you think the others will accept us?" he asked quietly. Humans had begun to trust the currents, and her people had learned that humans could be careful and understanding. But he wondered if their bond, so unusual, could truly be accepted. "They already see," Arya said. "Your trust and courage created understanding. Love is only another form of trust. It will grow in them too." Milan let out a deep breath. He realized that their journey was not just about friendship or diplomacy. It was about connection itself. He and Arya had proven that the void, vast and seemingly empty, could be a place for love and hope. "I want to explore with you," Milan said. "Not just the currents, but everything. Every star, every planet, every secret of the universe. And I will be with you," Arya replied, flowing through light, energy, and beyond. "Wherever you go, I will follow in my own way." They spent the hours together in quiet companionship, sharing observations, laughter, and small silences that felt full rather than empty. Milan described distant planets, the blue oceans of one world, the forests of another, and the way sunlight painted everything in warm colors. Arya shared the currents, the hidden flows of energy, and the stories carried within them for millennia. Through every exchange, Milan felt the bond deepen. He realized that love could take many forms. It could be light and energy, words and trust, presence and understanding. And across the vast distance of space, he had found it. Finally, as the first pulse of dawn reached the edge of the outpost, Milan spoke softly. "Arya, no matter where we are, no matter the distance, you are part of my heart. And you are part of mine, she replied, the currents glowing gently, almost like a smile. Distance cannot change what we share. Milan leaned back, gazing at the endless void. For the first time, he saw it not as a lonely, silent space, but as a place full of possibility. Stars were no longer distant points of light. They were companions in a universe where trust, courage, and love could shine brighter than anything else. The currents around Arya shimmered like living ribbons of hope. Milan knew that together, they had not only changed their own lives, but they had shown that humans and beings of the void could find friendship, understanding, and love. We have done it, Milan whispered almost to himself. We reached beyond fear and found each other. Yes, Arya said softly, her voice carrying across the currents. And together, we will shine beyond the stars. Milan closed his eyes, letting the warmth of that bond fill him completely. The void was no longer empty. It was full of light, full of life, and full of love. And somewhere between galaxies, across currents of energy and rivers of stars, two hearts, different but united, floated together, proving that even in the darkest corners of the universe, connection could flourish and love could truly shine.